At 19, she became the Duke's unwilling bride, but on wedding night he revealed why she was chosen. The village of Elmswood lay quiet under a silver mist. Small cottages huddled together like frightened children, and the cobblestone streets glistened with last night's rain. In the center of the village, near the old well, Arya moved quickly, clutching the basket of vegetables she had gathered for her mother. Her heart pounded for reasons she did not yet understand. At 19, she had thought her life would continue quietly, tending the garden, helping her mother, and occasionally reading by the fire in their modest cottage. She had never imagined that her world would be overturned in a single day by a single visitor. That morning, the sound of hoofbeats had echoed through the village, and with them came a shadow darker than any cloud. The villagers whispered as the carriage rolled to a stop in the square. Its black wood gleamed with strange symbols, and its windows were covered with heavy velvet curtains. At the door stood a man who seemed carved from stone itself. He was tall, with broad shoulders and eyes like storm clouds, gray and unfathomable. His presence commanded silence, and yet there was a strange elegance to the way he moved. A hush fell over the village as he dismounted, his boots striking the stones like distant thunder. "Arya Drenwell," he called, his voice deep and commanding. Her heart skipped. That was her name. She stepped forward cautiously, her hands tightening on her basket. "You are to come with me," he said without preamble. "You have been chosen to be my bride." A cold wind swept through the square. The villagers gasped. Arya's mouth went dry. I don't understand. Chosen," she whispered. The man's eyes, dark as winter clouds, held hers with an unyielding intensity. "You will understand soon, but know this, refusal is not an option." Panic rose within her. I cannot leave my mother, my home. This is impossible." The Duke Lucian, as the villagers muttered his name in fear, did not waver. He gestured, and two silent guards stepped forward. "Your family's safety is guaranteed. You will come willingly, or you will come nonetheless." Arya felt the walls of her small world crumble. She had heard stories of the Duke before, a man of immense power, feared for both his wealth and his secrets. But a bride, chosen for marriage without warning, without reason. It seemed impossible, cruel, and unreal. Her mother appeared then, her face pale but resolute. "Arya, you must go," she said softly. "It is not safe to argue. You are special. You carry something the world has forgotten, something the Duke seeks." Arya stared at her mother, confusion and fear battling with a strange flicker of curiosity. "Something I carry?" she asked, barely believing the words. "Yes," her mother said, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "Your bloodline, it is tied to old magic, ancient power. The Duke, he must protect it or control it. You do not yet understand, my child, but you must go." Before she could respond, the Duke stepped closer. "Time is short," he said. There was no malice in his voice, yet the weight of command pressed down upon her. He extended his hand. "Come with me, Arya. Do not fight what destiny has chosen." Trembling, she looked at her mother one last time. Then, with a mixture of dread and strange awe, she placed her hand in his. The world of Elmswood receded as the carriage carried her away, into forests that seemed older than memory itself, toward a castle she had only heard of in whispered tales. The journey was long, and Arya spent it staring out of the carriage window, unable to speak. The forest passed in waves of green and shadow. Birds called in unfamiliar languages, and the air carried a metallic tang, like the scent of storms. She felt as though she had stepped into a different realm altogether, one where time itself obeyed rules she could not comprehend. At last the carriage stopped before an immense castle, perched atop a cliff overlooking a dark river. Its towers reached into the clouds, black stone glinting faintly in the dying light. Arya's breath caught. The castle seemed alive, its windows glowing faintly like watchful eyes. Lucian helped her down from the carriage. He did not speak as they approached the massive doors, but she felt the weight of his gaze upon her. Each step seemed to echo through the castle like a drumbeat, marking the passage into a world that was no longer her own. Inside, the halls were vast and shadowed, lit by flickering torches. Suits of armor lined the walls and tapestries depicted battles and kings from centuries past. Servants moved silently, bowing as they passed, their eyes averted. Arya felt a shiver of unease. She was no longer a girl from a village. She was something else. Something powerful and dangerous and unknown. That evening she was shown to her chambers, a room larger than her entire cottage, with high ceilings, velvet drapes, and a bed that seemed to swallow the room in its grandeur. The Duke stood in the doorway, his silhouette framed by the torchlight. "Tonight," he said, his voice low, "you will understand why you were brought here." Arya's pulse quickened. I don't understand. I don't know why I was chosen. You will know soon enough," Lucian said, interrupting her. "But not yet. For now you must rest. The castle is not forgiving to the unprepared." As he left, Arya's eyes fell on a small desk near the window. On it lay a bundle of old letters, tied with a silver ribbon. Trembling, she untied them. The handwriting was elegant, almost ethereal, and the words spoke of curses, power, and a bloodline meant to awaken an ancient force. Her mother's words returned to her. "You are special. You carry something the world has forgotten." The hours passed, and the castle settled into silence, broken only by the wind howling against the stone walls. Arya lay in the enormous bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing with questions. Finally, unable to remain still, she rose and wandered to the window. Below, the river gleamed like liquid night, and the forest stretched endlessly beyond. It was beautiful, yes, but it was a beauty tinged with danger and secrets. Then, from the shadows of the hallway, a servant appeared. She was an elderly woman with eyes sharp as a hawk. "Do not wander alone at night," she whispered. "The castle, it watches, it remembers, and it is not kind to those who do not belong." Arya shivered. "Belong?" she asked. "I do not belong here. I am not ready for—" The woman placed a gnarled hand on her shoulder. "No one is ready, child. Not for what is coming. Only those who embrace it survive." Before Arya could respond, the woman vanished into the shadows. Silence returned, deeper this time, as though the castle itself had inhaled and held its breath. Hours later, as the moon climbed high, a knock came at her door. Heart pounding, Arya opened it to find Lucian standing there, his eyes unreadable in the dim light. "Arya," he said softly, yet there was an edge to his voice that made her stomach twist. "There is something you must see." He led her through twisting hallways and up a narrow spiral staircase until they reached a room Arya had never noticed before. Candles flickered around a large mirror, and in its reflection, shadows danced unnaturally. "Look closely," he said. "What do you see?" Arya stared at the mirror and her breath caught. The reflection shifted, showing her not as she was, but with faint, glowing markings on her skin, symbols she did not understand but felt deep in her bones. Her pulse raced and a shiver ran through her. "The blood of your family," Lucian whispered, "carries power, power that was feared, power that must be controlled. That is why you were chosen. Tonight you begin to understand who you truly are." Arya's knees weakened. Her life had changed forever. She had been brought here against her will, yet something in Lucian's words stirred a strange thrill within her. Fear, yes, but also wonder, curiosity, and a trembling hope that perhaps her life was meant for more than she had ever imagined. As she turned to ask him what it all meant, the door slammed shut behind them with a force that made the candles flicker wildly. A cold wind swept through the room, and a shadow passed across the mirror, something unseen but unmistakably alive. Arya clutched Lucian's arm. What is that?" she whispered. He looked at her, his storm-gray eyes intense, almost tender. "That, Arya, is why your destiny cannot wait, and why tonight you must stay close, for the castle remembers everything, and it does not forgive mistakes." Her heart pounded in her chest as the shadows twisted in the mirror, moving closer, alive with intent. And in that moment, Arya realized the truth. Her life was no longer her own. She had crossed the threshold into a world of power, secrets, and darkness, and there was no turning back. The wind howled outside, and the castle seemed to pulse like a living being, as if it too awaited her next move. And in the flickering candlelight, Lucian's presence was both terrifying and strangely comforting, a promise, a warning, and the beginning of a journey that would change her forever. Cliffhanger, as Arya gazed into the mirror, the shadows coalesced into a figure she did not recognize, yet one that whispered her name. And in that whisper, she felt the first tremor of a destiny that could save or destroy everything she loved. The next morning, Arya awoke to a pale light slipping through the tall, velvet-draped windows. The grandeur of her chamber felt overwhelming, the enormous bed, the heavy curtains, the polished floors that reflected the rising sun. She sat on the edge of the bed, hands folded in her lap, and tried to steady her racing thoughts. Her mind wandered to the shadows she had seen in the mirror the night before. The figure that whispered her name haunted her, and the Duke's words echoed in her ears. "Your destiny cannot wait. The castle remembers everything." A soft knock came at her door. Before she could answer, it opened, and the elderly servant who had warned her appeared. "Breakfast is ready," she said, her sharp eyes scanning Arya's face. "And you should eat quickly. The Duke expects you afterward." Arya hesitated. He expects me. For what?" The woman's expression softened just for a moment. "For understanding, for learning. He is not cruel, but he carries a heavy burden. You are a part of it now." Arya nodded, though her stomach churned. She followed the servant down the winding hallways to a sunlit dining room where a long table gleamed with silver dishes. Lucian was already there, standing at the head of the table like a sentinel. His gray eyes flicked to her, and for a moment the sternness softened into a quiet, unreadable emotion. "Sit," he said, voice even. "You must eat." Arya obeyed, noting how the staff moved with silent precision, serving dishes without a word. She felt like an intruder in a world that had existed long before her and would continue long after. Lucian did not speak again until the meal was finished. Then he leaned slightly forward, his hands resting on the polished table. "Arya," he said carefully, "you are here for a reason. That reason is not merely tradition or alliance. It is something older, older than the walls of this castle, older than your family remembers." Arya's pulse quickened. She had spent the night awake, thinking of possibilities, of magic, of shadows. I do not understand," she said quietly. "Why me?" Lucian's gaze did not waver. "Because only you can awaken it. Only your bloodline has the power that must be controlled, or it will destroy us all. You carry the potential to break a curse that has haunted my family for generations." The words felt heavy, almost impossible to believe. Arya shook her head. "A curse, me?" "Yes," Lucian said. "You are stronger than you realize, but strength alone is not enough. You must learn and you must trust, though trust is not given lightly." Arya's chest tightened. She wanted to run, to return to the life she had known, to the small world of her village. But something in Lucian's presence held her, a mixture of fear, respect, and curiosity. The Duke rose abruptly. "Come," he said. He led her down a labyrinth of hallways she had not noticed before. They moved past suits of armor, ancient tapestries, and doors carved with symbols that seemed to glow faintly as they passed. At last, they reached a library, vast and shadowed, with shelves towering toward the ceiling. Dust motes floated in the beams of light, giving the room an almost sacred quality. Lucian gestured to a large desk stacked with leather-bound books. "Here," he said. "This is where you will begin to learn." Arya approached, her fingers brushing over the covers. She could feel a strange warmth, almost a vibration, emanating from the oldest books. The room seemed alive, humming with knowledge and secrets. Lucian handed her a small, leather-bound journal. "This belonged to your ancestor," he said. "She faced the same power you do. Her words may guide you." Arya opened the journal carefully. The pages were filled with elegant script, describing a world of magic, curses, and responsibilities. There were accounts of shadows that moved on their own, of powers that could heal or destroy, and of choices that carried consequences far beyond one's understanding. Her hands trembled. This, this is real. Lucian's eyes softened for a fleeting moment. As real as the castle around us, and more dangerous than you can yet imagine. For hours, Arya read, absorbing the history of her family and the weight of the powers that lay dormant within her. She learned that her bloodline was tied to an ancient force that could either restore balance to the lands or plunge them into darkness. And the Duke, he had been chosen to protect it, guide it, and now to guide her. As the sun dipped behind the castle walls, casting long shadows across the floor, Lucian finally spoke again. "You must train," he said. "Your power will not awaken on its own. You will need discipline, courage, and trust in yourself, and eventually in me." Arya swallowed hard. "Trust you," she repeated. "I barely know you. How can I trust someone who brought me here?" Lucian's expression darkened slightly, though his voice remained calm. "Because, despite appearances, I am the only one who can keep you safe. And the only one who can guide you through what is coming." Arya's stomach churned. She wanted to believe him, but the fear lingered. She nodded, though reluctantly, and followed him to a smaller chamber at the edge of the library. There she saw strange markings etched into the stone floor, glowing faintly in the dim light. "These are protection runes," Lucian explained. "They will contain your power until you learn to control it. Step inside and focus on your center, on your own strength." Arya hesitated, staring at the glowing symbols. They seemed alive, almost breathing. Her heart raced, but she remembered the shadows in the mirror, the warning of the servant, and the weight of the Duke's gaze. Slowly, she stepped into the circle. The moment she did, a warmth spread through her body and her vision shimmered. She saw flashes of the past, her ancestors standing in a similar circle, her hands raised, summoning light and shadow. Arya's breath caught. Could she really do what her ancestor had done? Could she awaken the same power? Lucian's voice broke her reverie. "Breathe, focus. Do not fight it, let it flow through you." Arya closed her eyes and tried to calm herself. She felt a pulse of energy, faint at first, then growing stronger. The room seemed to bend around her, the air vibrating with possibility. And then a shadow darted across the far wall. Arya's eyes snapped open. The figure was tall, robed in black, its face hidden. It moved like a whisper, faster than she could follow. Her heart thudded. Lucian's hand shot out, gripping her shoulder. "Do not panic," he said, his voice steady but urgent. "It is testing you. Shadows are drawn to power. Control yours or it will control you." Arya's pulse raced. She focused, feeling the energy within her stir, responding to her will. Slowly, carefully, she extended her hand and the shadow hesitated. It recoiled, then dissolved into a mist that vanished into the corners of the room. Breathing heavily, Arya looked at Lucian. I did it," she whispered. He nodded, though his expression was grim. "Yes, for now, but that was only a beginning. There will be more tests and they will be harder. You must be ready, Arya, because your enemies, those who would use your power for their own gain, are already watching." Arya's stomach sank. She had hoped that learning would be safe, that the castle would be a place of guidance and protection. Instead, danger waited in the shadows, testing her courage and skill. That night, as she lay in her bed, Arya could not sleep. The image of the shadow lingered in her mind, and the memory of the mirror, where the figure had whispered her name, made her pulse quicken. She realized that her life in the castle would be nothing like the quiet days of Elmswood. Here, every moment carried risk, and every glance might hide a secret. A soft knock on her door startled her. She hesitated, then opened it to see Lucian standing there, cloak drawn, eyes shadowed by candlelight. "Arya," he said, his voice softer now, "you have done well today, but there is more to see, more to understand." She nodded, torn between fear and curiosity. He led her through silent corridors to a hidden balcony overlooking the northern forest. The moonlight glimmered on the treetops, silver and magical. Lucian pointed toward a distant hill where a faint glow pulsed. "That," he said, "is the first place you will need to go alone. There you will confront a part of your power that has been dormant. Only you can awaken it fully." Arya's heart pounded. "Alone?" she asked, anxiety and determination warring within her. "Yes," Lucian said. "You must face it yourself. I can guide you, but only you can act. And remember," his eyes softened, briefly showing the man behind the title, "I will be here if danger becomes too great, but courage must come from you alone." Arya swallowed hard. Her life had changed in a single day, from a simple village girl to the heir of a mysterious power, trapped in a castle of shadows, under the watch of a man both terrifying and magnetic. And now she was to face her first true test alone. The wind whispered through the balcony, carrying the scent of the forest and something darker, something ancient. Arya felt a thrill of fear and excitement. She did not know what awaited her on the hill, but she understood one truth clearly. Her life had become a story of power, secrets, and destiny, and nothing would ever be the same again. Cliffhanger. As Arya turned to face the moonlit forest, she saw movement in the shadows below, figures watching, waiting, and a soft, chilling whisper reached her ears. "The chosen has begun, but the darkness follows." The moon hung low over the northern forest, casting silver light over the undulating hills. Arya stood at the edge of the castle balcony, her heart thundering in her chest. The hill Lucian had pointed to the night before rose in the distance, shrouded in mist and shadows. She drew a deep breath, feeling both fear and determination. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the railing. "I can do this," she whispered to herself. "I must." Lucian appeared behind her, silent as a shadow. "Do not underestimate what you carry," he said. "Your power is strong but untrained. One wrong step and it could overwhelm you." "I understand," Arya replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "But I can't stay in the castle forever. I must try." He nodded once, his gray eyes scanning the forest. "Then go carefully. The path is not safe, and you may encounter forces drawn to your bloodline. Trust yourself, and trust nothing else." Arya descended the spiral staircase of the castle and stepped out into the cold night. The air was sharp and smelled of damp earth and moss. Her footsteps were quiet, but each one felt heavy with consequence. The castle faded behind her, a dark silhouette against the moonlight, while the forest ahead seemed to shift with anticipation. As she climbed the hill, the mist grew thicker. Shadows danced among the trees, and every rustle made her heart race. Arya repeated the instructions Lucian had given her. "Focus, breathe, connect with your power." Slowly she extended her hands, and a faint light pulsed from her palms, illuminating the mist like a small sun. A sudden movement in the fog made her spin. A figure stepped forward, tall, robed, face hidden in darkness. Arya's pulse spiked. The figure spoke in a voice like gravel and silk. "So, the chosen one finally arrives." Arya lifted her hands, feeling energy thrumming through her veins. "Who are you?" she demanded. The figure bowed slightly. "I am one who watches, one who knows the truth of your power and the danger it carries. You cannot control it yet. You are vulnerable." Fear and defiance surged within her. "I will control it. I have to." The figure tilted its head, almost amused. "Bold words for someone untested. Let us see if you are worthy." Arya's power responded instinctively. Light surged from her hands, swirling around her like liquid silver. The figure hesitated, and for the first time Arya felt a spark of confidence. But the figure was quick, moving with unnatural speed, testing her reflexes, shifting the shadows to disorient her. Time stretched and twisted as Arya dodged, focused, and countered. The energy inside her pulsed, reacting to her fear, her determination, and her growing control. Slowly she felt a rhythm emerge, power obeying intention. With a deep breath she extended her hands fully, and a brilliant wave of light shot forward, dissolving the shadowy figure into mist. For a moment silence fell. Arya's chest heaved. She had done it. She had faced her first true challenge and survived. Then the wind carried a whisper, soft but unmistakable. Well done, but not all watches with good intent. Arya turned sharply, but the mist was empty. Unease settled in her stomach. Someone or something was observing her. She returned to the castle before dawn, exhausted but exhilarated. Lucian waited in the library, his expression unreadable. "You succeeded," he said, voice calm, "but I see worry in your eyes." "There's someone out there," Arya admitted. "Someone who watches me, maybe wants to harm me." Lucian's gaze darkened. "I feared as much. There are those who would use your bloodline for their gain, and there are always those who see the chosen as a tool rather than a person." Arya sat heavily, the events of the night pressing on her. I thought this power would be mine, something I could control, but it feels alive and dangerous." Lucian knelt beside her, a hand resting lightly on hers. "Power is always dangerous until mastered. But you are stronger than you believe, and you will not face this alone." Arya's heart thudded at his words, not just because of reassurance, but because of the closeness, the presence, and the subtle warmth behind his gray eyes. Something unspoken passed between them, a tension neither dared name aloud. Days passed as training intensified. Arya spent hours in the library, learning about her bloodline and the history of the curse. She practiced in the runic circles, guided by Lucian, mastering control over the light that now pulsed within her. Each day brought small victories, and each night brought new challenges in her dreams, shadows whispering, testing, and teasing her growing power. Yet not all was as it seemed. In the castle's shadowed corridors, she began to notice whispers among the servants. They watched her with fearful respect, but some looked at her with suspicion and others with something darker. One evening a page stumbled near her chamber, whispering, "The Duke's plans, not all of them are as they seem." Arya's stomach tightened. Could Lucian truly be trusted? She wanted to believe him, needed to believe him, but doubt crept in like a shadow. Then came the betrayal. A trusted advisor, Lord Malric, approached her in the library while Lucian was absent. He spoke in hushed tones, eyes darting nervously. "You have power more than you know," he said, "and the Duke, he will not use it as you deserve. He intends to bind it, control it, and perhaps keep you for himself, not for the kingdom." Arya's mind spun. She had trusted Lucian, but the words planted a seed of fear. Could the man who had guided her, protected her, and stood beside her truly have a hidden purpose? "Why are you telling me this?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Because if you do not see the truth," he said, "you may be used and lose everything." Before she could respond, a shadow passed behind him. Lucian appeared in the doorway, eyes sharp. "What are you doing, Malric?" he demanded. The advisor bowed quickly, muttering excuses, but the doubt in Arya's heart had already taken root. Lucian approached her then, voice low, almost gentle. "Do not let others poison your thoughts," he said, his hand brushing hers lightly. "Power attracts envy, fear, and lies. Trust is earned, not given lightly. But know this, I am not your enemy." Arya wanted to believe him, but the words lingered in her mind. Could she truly trust anyone in a castle filled with secrets? The next night, a storm raged outside. Lightning illuminated the castle and thunder rolled across the mountains. Arya, restless and anxious, wandered to the balcony. Lucian joined her, his coat damp from the rain that had begun to blow in. "The shadows will not stop," he said quietly. "And neither will those who seek to use your power, but you are ready to face more than the hill now. Soon the trial will come to the castle itself." Arya's pulse quickened. What kind of trial?" Lucian's gaze held hers, stormy and intense. "One that will test your courage, your skill, and your trust. You must be prepared, and I will be here, but only to guide, not to fight for you." A flash of lightning illuminated his face, and Arya saw something she had never seen before, a vulnerability beneath the mask of strength. The man who seemed so untouchable was human. Her heart ached with a mix of fear and longing. She did not fully understand it, but she could not deny it. Lucian's presence was both terrifying and comforting, and in the storm's howl, it was the only thing that steadied her. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the balcony, and Arya froze. It was different from the night on the hill, closer, more tangible. A chill ran down her spine as she realized the danger was not far away. Lucian stepped in front of her. "Stay behind me," he commanded. His hand rested lightly on the hilt of his sword, but his eyes were on her, not the shadow. "Whatever comes, face it with courage, Arya, and remember, power without control is as dangerous as those who would use it." The shadow shifted, forming shapes that seemed alive. Whispers filled the air, voices of doubt and fear, testing her resolve. Arya closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and reached inward, feeling the energy that now lived inside her. Slowly, the whispers faded as she extended her hands. A soft, silver light spread across the balcony, illuminating the storm around her. The shadows recoiled, hissing softly, then dissipated into the night. Arya's knees weakened from the effort, and she sank to the stone floor. She had survived, but just barely. Lucian knelt beside her, brushing wet hair from her face. "You did well," he said, voice low, almost tender. "But this is only the beginning. There are more tests to come, and some will not give warning." Arya shivered, exhausted and exhilarated. She had faced fear, confronted power, and survived her first true trial. But the castle still held secrets, and betrayal had already touched her heart. The road ahead was dark and uncertain, and yet she felt a strange thrill of purpose she had never known before. Cliffhanger. As the storm raged, Arya looked toward the castle windows and saw a figure watching, Malric, bowing silently to an unseen force. A cold whisper drifted to her ears. "The Chosen awakens, but the game has only begun." The dawn broke over the castle like liquid gold, casting long shadows across the towers and walls. The storm of the previous night had passed, leaving the world washed clean and trembling with possibility. Yet, within the castle, the air was heavy with anticipation and unease. Arya awoke before sunrise, her heart still pounding from the previous night's battle with shadows. Every nerve in her body tingled, a reminder of the power that now lived inside her. She rose quietly, careful not to wake the servants, and walked to the balcony, looking out over the northern forest. Mist rolled across the hills like a restless river, hiding the paths she had traveled, the trials she had faced, and the challenges that still awaited her. Lucian appeared behind her, moving silently. He did not speak at first, allowing her a moment to breathe and gather her thoughts. His presence was steady, like a rock in the shifting currents of her world. "You are ready," he said finally, his voice low and certain. "But the greatest trial comes not from outside, it comes from within. You must confront the full power of your bloodline and face the truth of those who seek to use it." Arya nodded, though uncertainty gnawed at her. "I have trained, but can I truly control it?" "You must," Lucian replied. "Control is not just mastery over power. It is mastery over fear, over doubt, over the shadows that would take advantage of your courage. Today, you will prove yourself, and I will be here not to fight for you, but to guide you if needed." With that, they descended into the castle courtyard, where the servants and a small group of guards had gathered. Their faces were tense, eyes flicking nervously between Arya, Lucian, and the approaching figures on the hill. At the top of the northern hill, shadows swirled, forming shapes that seemed alive. Arya recognized them immediately, dark, twisting forms that had haunted her dreams and whispered doubts in her ears. But now, she did not feel only fear. She felt purpose, courage, and determination. Lucian stepped forward, his hand brushing lightly against hers. "Remember," he said, "power is not something to fear. It is a part of you. Breathe, focus, and let it guide you. Trust yourself." Arya drew in a deep breath. She raised her hands, and a soft silver light shimmered into existence, illuminating the courtyard and casting long, dancing shadows across the stone walls. The figures on the hill paused, as if surprised by the strength now radiating from her. Then with a sudden rush they moved forward. The shadows flowed down the hill like a river, attempting to engulf her. Arya's heart pounded, but she did not falter. She extended her hands fully, and the light surged, pushing the shadows back, forcing them to recoil. Her mind focused on every lesson she had learned: the runes, the meditations, the stories of her ancestors. Her power responded to intention, bending to her will. The shadows shrieked and twisted, but they could not penetrate the strength she had cultivated. Yet the test was far from over. From the mist, a figure stepped forward, a tall, cloaked man Arya recognized immediately. Lord Malric, the advisor who had whispered words of doubt and betrayal, now stood at the forefront of the Shadow Army. His eyes gleamed with ambition, and in his hand a staff pulsed with dark energy. "You think you are ready, child," Malric sneered. "Power without experience is dangerous, and you are nothing but a tool in the Duke's hands." Arya's breath caught. He was strong, and he had prepared for her awakening, but she would not let fear control her. She steadied her hands, focusing her energy, letting it flow through her, bright and pure. The silver light expanded, forming a protective aura around her. Lucian moved beside her, sword drawn but careful to stay in the shadows of her power. "Do not be distracted by him," he said. "He is only a test. Your strength is greater than his darkness." Arya felt the power thrumming within her. It was not just energy, it was her courage, her resolve, her heart. She let it expand outward, and the shadows recoiled as if burned by sunlight. The light spread, touching the mist, the hill, the trees, and even the castle walls, illuminating every corner of the courtyard. Malric struck with his staff, sending a wave of dark energy toward her. Arya met it with her light, and the two forces collided in a dazzling explosion of silver and shadow. The ground trembled beneath her feet, and the air crackled with energy. For a moment the light faltered, but then she drew deeper, drawing on every lesson, every story, every ounce of courage. With a cry that echoed across the hills, Arya released a surge of energy so brilliant that the shadows were torn apart, dissolving into mist. Malric fell to his knees, the staff slipping from his hands, his power shattered by the force of Arya's awakening. She stood trembling, her chest heaving as the light slowly faded, leaving a calm, silver glow around her. The courtyard was silent, save for the wind moving through the trees. Lucian stepped forward, his eyes soft, almost awed. You have done it," he said. "You have faced the darkness and survived, and more than that, you have mastered it." Arya's knees weakened, and she sank to the stone floor. Relief, exhaustion, and a strange joy mixed within her. I did it," she whispered. "Yes," Lucian replied, kneeling beside her. "And now you are more than the chosen. You are the master of your destiny. The curse is broken, not by force alone, but by your courage, your heart, and your will." Arya looked at him, her eyes wide. "The curse, it's really gone," Lucian nodded, his hand brushing hers gently. "Yes, and you have grown stronger than I ever imagined. Not just in power, but in spirit." A quiet peace settled over the courtyard, and for a moment it felt as though the world itself had sighed. The mist lifted, revealing the first light of dawn painting the castle walls in gold. Birds called in the distance, and the wind carried the scent of flowers and fresh earth. Arya rose to her feet, feeling both small and enormous at the same time. She had faced fear, darkness, and betrayal, and she had triumphed. Her hand still glowed faintly with residual energy, but it was a gentle warmth now, a promise of control and purpose. Lucian stood beside her, his gray eyes softening. "Arya," he said quietly, "you have done more than I hoped. You are not just the chosen, you are my equal, my partner in this world, and in whatever comes next." Arya's heart fluttered. The tension, fear, and confusion of the past days had melted into something she could not yet name. She looked at him, seeing not just the Duke, but the man who had guided her, challenged her, and in moments she had never expected, comforted her. I don't know what to say," she whispered. Lucian smiled faintly, a softness in his expression that made her heart ache. You do not need words. You need only be yourself, and know that what we face next we face together. They turned toward the castle, side by side, as the servants and guards emerged cautiously, witnessing the dawn of a new order. The castle, once a place of shadows and whispers, now felt alive with hope, protection, and a sense of renewal. Later, as Arya returned to her chambers, she paused before the mirror that had shown her shadows and whispers. This time her reflection was her own, strong and luminous, marked by courage and mastery. She smiled softly, feeling the weight of fear lift from her shoulders. She was no longer just a girl chosen by destiny. She was its master, and she had found her place beside the man who had believed in her from the beginning. That evening, Lucian joined her in the library, their hands brushing lightly as they walked among the books. There was no need for conversation. The silence spoke of understanding, respect, and the quiet promise of something deeper, a bond forged not in convenience or duty, but in shared trials, trust, and triumph. The castle settled around them, calm and protective, as night fell once more. Outside, the wind carried no threat, only the soft murmur of the world moving forward. Arya stood at the window, feeling the energy within her pulse gently, a reminder of the journey she had endured and the strength she now possessed. Lucian came to stand beside her, and for the first time there was no barrier between them. "You are remarkable," he said quietly. "Not just for your power, but for your heart. That is what makes you truly unstoppable." Arya felt a warmth spread through her chest. "And you have guided me, trusted me, and believed in me," she said. "I could not have done this without you." He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Nor I without you. Together we are stronger than the shadows, stronger than any curse, stronger than fate itself." As they stood together, the castle around them quiet and safe, Arya understood that this was more than victory. It was transformation. Fear had been faced, betrayal had been endured, and power had been mastered, not just by force but by courage, heart, and trust. The world was vast, and challenges would come again. But for now, the castle was theirs, the curse was broken, and the bond between them had been forged in fire and light. Cliffhanger/closing promise. Arya looked toward the horizon, sensing a faint shimmer in the distance, a reminder that even in victory, destiny moves forward. She smiled, feeling the thrill of life, love, and power intertwining. Whatever came next, she knew this. She would face it with courage and with Lucian by her side.